The alarm screamed through the Galactic Council monitoring station like nothing Commander Velness had heard in her 40 years of service. Her pale blue fingers moved across the holographic display, trying to understand what was happening. The signal was coming from the Sol system, the quarantined zone that housed the primitive species called humans. "Commander, we have an emergency transmission," her second officer called out. His voice shook slightly. "It's a distress call. They're under attack." Velness pulled up the video feed. The image was grainy and filled with static, but she could see enough. A massive ship, clearly designed for long-distance travel, tumbled through space. Parts of its hull were torn open, exposing the decks inside to the vacuum. Small figures in white suits floated in the darkness, their movements growing slower and slower until they stopped moving at all. "Enhance the image," Velness ordered. The computer obeyed. Now she could see the attackers. Kravith raiders, their distinctive black ships circling the dying vessel like scavengers around a corpse. The Kravith were known throughout the galaxy as pirates and murderers. They took what they wanted and killed anyone who stood in their way. "Those are humans on that ship," the sensor officer said quietly. "The database says they're Category 12 protected beings. Too fragile for first contact." Velness had read the reports about humans. They came from a world that should have killed them, but somehow they survived. Their bones broke easily compared to other species. Their skin tore with minimal force. They needed a very specific mixture of gases to breathe, and their temperature tolerance was remarkably narrow. The Galactic Council had decided decades ago to watch Earth from a distance, waiting until humans developed proper space travel before making contact. It was supposed to protect them. "How many humans on that ship?" Velness asked. 3,000, Commander. Men, women, and children. It's a colony ship. They were heading to the fourth planet in their system. 3,000. Velness felt her secondary heart skip a beat. That many deaths would be a tragedy for any species, but for a Category 12 protected species it would be devastating. They were so few in number, so vulnerable. "Prepare a rescue fleet," she ordered. "We're going to help them." "Commander, with respect, that violates protocol," her second officer said. "We're not supposed to make contact with humans yet." The Council was very clear about that. "The Council also says we protect vulnerable species," Velness replied. Her voice was firm. "Those humans are dying right now. I'm not going to sit here and watch it happen. Prepare the fleet. That's an order." The second officer nodded and began making the necessary arrangements. Velness watched the video feed, hoping they would arrive in time. She could see the human ship trying to fight back. Their weapons were primitive by galactic standards. Using simple chemical propulsion and basic explosives, they managed to damage one Kravith ship, but it wasn't enough. There were too many attackers. It took 2 hours to reach the battle site, 2 hours that felt like an eternity to Velness. When her fleet finally dropped out of faster-than-light travel, she knew immediately that they were too late. The human colony ship was gone. Not damaged or disabled, but completely destroyed. Debris floated everywhere, glittering in the light of the distant sun. The Kravith ships were still there, picking through the wreckage, looking for anything valuable they could steal. "Scan for survivors," Velness ordered, even though she knew what the answer would be. "No life signs, Commander. All humans are dead." Velness closed her eyes. 3,000 lives gone. Families who would never reach their new home. Children who would never grow up. All because the Kravith were greedy and cruel, and because she had arrived too late. "Hail the Kravith ships," she said. The face that appeared on her screen was hideous by any standard. The Kravith captain had 4 eyes, each one looking in a different direction. His skin was covered in thick scales that could stop most small weapons. He was twice the size of any human and probably 10 times as strong. "Ah, the Zephrani," he said, his voice dripping with contempt. "Come to scold us, have you? Tell us how wrong we are to hunt in our own territory. You just killed 3,000 protected beings," Velness said. "You've violated a dozen galactic laws. Surrender now and you'll face trial." The Kravith captain laughed. It was an ugly, rasping sound. "Protected? Those soft little mammals. They barely fought back. They broke so easily. I'm surprised they survived long enough to leave their little planet." He leaned closer to the screen. "What are you going to do about it, Zephrani? You and your people are weak, just like them. You care too much about things that don't matter." "You're wrong," Velness said quietly. "Life always matters." "Then come and arrest me," the captain sneered. "Oh, wait, you won't. You'll file a report and complain to the council and nothing will happen. It never does. We both know how this works. He was right, and that made Velnus feel sick. The Galactic Council moved slowly. They would debate and discuss, form committees, and write reports. It would take years for any real justice to happen, if it happened at all. The Kravith would face fines at worst, and they would pay those fines with the money they made from their raids. This isn't over, Velnus said. Yes, it is, the Kravith captain replied. Those humans are dead, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now get out of my territory before I decide to attack you too. He cut the transmission. Velnus sat in her command chair, staring at the empty screen. Her crew looked at her, waiting for orders. She knew what she should do. She should return to the monitoring station, file her report, and let the council handle it. That was protocol, but protocol had failed. 3,000 humans were dead because she had followed protocol, because the council had followed protocol, because everyone always followed protocol even when it was wrong. Record everything, Velnus ordered. Every piece of debris, every body we can find, every bit of data about the attack. I want a complete file. What are you going to do with it, Commander? Her second officer asked. Velnus made her decision. It might end her career. It might even get her arrested. But she couldn't let those deaths mean nothing. I'm going to send it to Earth, she said. The humans need to know what happened here. They need to know their people are dead. But Commander, that's first contact. We already made contact, Velnus interrupted. We just didn't make it in time to matter. Prepare the transmission. Make sure it includes everything, especially the conversation with the Kravith captain. The humans deserve to know the truth. The transmission was sent within the hour. It would take time to reach Earth, traveling at the speed of light. But it would get there. And when it did, the humans would know. Velnus didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know how humans would respond to learning that their colony ship had been destroyed, that 3,000 of their people had been murdered, and that the galaxy had watched it happen. She didn't know if they would be angry or sad or afraid. What she didn't realize, what none of them realized, was that they were about to learn something important about humans, something that would change everything. The galaxy was about to discover that humans were not as fragile as they seemed, and they were about to learn what happened when you hurt something that humanity loved. The transmission reached Earth 3 days after the attack. It arrived at the main communications hub in Geneva at 3:47 a.m. local time. Within minutes, every government on the planet had been notified. Within an hour, the entire world knew. Sarah Chen was in her apartment in New Beijing when she saw the news. She was getting ready for work, drinking her morning coffee when her phone started buzzing with emergency alerts. She turned on the television and saw the footage. The destroyed colony ship, the floating bodies, the Kravith captain laughing as he talked about how easily humans broke. Sarah's brother had been on that ship. His wife, their 2 children. They were supposed to start a new life on Mars, to be among the first families in the new colony. Now they were gone, murdered by creatures Sarah had never known existed until this moment. She wasn't the only one. All across Earth, people learned that they had lost someone. A parent, a child, a friend, a lover. 3,000 people gone in an instant, and the rest of humanity could only watch the recording and feel helpless. The Galactic Council contacted Earth that same day. It was the first official communication between humanity and the greater galaxy. A group of aliens appeared on every screen in the world, speaking through translation devices that turned their strange sounds into human languages. We are deeply sorry for your loss, the council representative said. She looked like a tall, thin bird with blue feathers and too many eyes. The Kravith will be punished according to galactic law. We will make sure justice is served. What does that mean? The Secretary General of the United Nations asked. What happens to them? They will face fines and restrictions, the council representative explained. The Kravith government will pay compensation to Earth. The captain and his crew will be banned from certain trade routes. That's it? The Secretary General's voice was cold. They murdered 3,000 people and they get fined? We understand your anger, but galactic law is very specific. We cannot simply attack another species' ships. That would start a war. The galaxy has been at peace for over 1,000 years. We must maintain that peace. Peace, the Secretary General repeated. Your peace is built on letting murderers go free. We strongly advise you not to take any action, the council representative said. Her voice had a warning in it now. You are a new species. You don't understand how things work in the galaxy. If you attack the Kravith, other species will see you as dangerous. You will make enemies before you've even made friends. The Secretary General was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "We didn't ask for your permission." The transmission ended. The Galactic Council representative seemed confused by the response. She didn't understand what it meant. She would learn soon enough. Earth had been preparing for contact with alien life for over a century. Every government had plans. Every military had contingencies. Humanity had always known they weren't alone in the universe. And they had always known that some of their neighbors might not be friendly. Within 6 hours of the Council's transmission, Earth's combined military command met in a secure location. Representatives from every nation sat around a table looking at the same data, asking the same question. What do we do? The answer was obvious. Cargo haulers that normally carried food and supplies were retrofitted with weapons. Mining ships designed to cut apart asteroids were given military-grade targeting systems. Passenger liners became troop carriers. Humanity had thousands of ships in space, and every single one of them could be turned into a weapon if necessary. The shipyards went into full production. Earth's factories, which had been building homes and cars and computers, switched to building missiles and armor plating and power generators. The asteroid miners who usually looked for valuable metals started looking for iron and titanium and uranium. The Galactic Council watched all of this happening and started to realize they had made a terrible mistake. Commander Velness was the one who first saw the scope of the problem. She was still at the monitoring station, waiting to find out if she would be punished for sending the transmission to Earth. She watched the sensor data coming from the Sol system and felt a cold fear growing in her chest. "Those aren't colony ships," her second officer said, staring at his screen. "They're warships. Hundreds of them. But the database said humans were Category 12 protected," another officer added. "It said they were fragile. Weak." Velness pulled up the old reports about Earth. She read them carefully, looking for the mistake. And then she found it. The reports had said that human bones broke easily compared to other species. That was true. But what the reports didn't mention was that human bones healed, stronger than before, that human bodies adapted to damage, building resistance to things that hurt them. The report said humans needed a specific mixture of gases to breathe. That was true. But they didn't mention that humans could survive in environments that would kill most other species. They lived at the bottom of an incredibly deep gravity well. They survived temperature swings that would crack stone. Their planet was covered in deadly bacteria and viruses and plants and animals, and humans just lived alongside all of it. The report said human weapons were primitive. That was true. But primitive didn't mean ineffective. Velness looked at the data on human missiles. They used simple chemical reactions, yes, but those reactions produced incredible amounts of energy. A single human warhead could crack a moon. They had thousands of them. "Contact the Council," Velness said quietly. "Tell them we need to update the database on humans immediately." "What should it say?" her second officer asked. Velness looked at the screen showing the human fleet gathering in Earth orbit. Hundreds of ships with more being launched every day, all of them heading in one direction, toward Kravith space. "Change their classification," she said. "Humans aren't Category 12 protected beings. They're from a death world. Everything about them makes sense once you realize that. They're not fragile. They're survivors, and we just gave them a reason to go to war." The human fleet launched 3 weeks after the massacre. They didn't ask permission from the Galactic Council. They didn't file flight plans or request clearance. They just left, hundreds of ships moving as one, heading into the unknown parts of space where the Kravith hunted. One transmission was sent to every species in the galaxy. It was short and simple, translated into every known language. "The Kravith murdered our people. We are going to get justice. Stay out of our way." The Galactic Council tried to respond. They tried to negotiate, to offer mediation, to convince the humans to turn back. Every message went unanswered. The human fleet kept moving. Commander Velness watched them go. She had started all of this by sending that transmission to Earth. She had wanted the humans to know what happened to their colony ship. She had wanted someone to care about those 3,000 deaths. She got her wish. But now she wondered if she had made another mistake. She had unleashed something that couldn't be stopped. The galaxy had been at peace for 1,000 years, and that peace was about to end. All because she had told the truth to a species that valued truth above safety. All because she had asked for help from a species that actually helped. instead of just offering empty words and meaningless gestures. The human fleet disappeared into the darkness between stars, and Velnus could only wait to see what would happen next. She had a feeling that the galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget. Never wake something that's been sleeping peacefully, and never ever hurt something that humanity loves. The Kravith war fleet assembled in the outer reaches, a region of space where galactic law was more suggestion than rule. Captain Throck stood on the command deck of his flagship, looking at the sensor data showing the approaching human vessels. He had 40 ships under his command, all of them heavily armed and crewed by experienced raiders. "How many human ships?" he asked his weapons officer. 20, Captain. Small ones. They don't match any military configuration in our database." Throck clicked his mandibles together in what passed for a smile among his people. 20 ships against 40. The humans were either very brave or very stupid. He suspected it was the latter. "They're probably here to negotiate," his second-in-command said. "Humans are weak. They'll threaten us, make demands, and then go home when they realize we're not afraid of them." "Maybe," Throck said, "but prepare for battle anyway. Humans are unpredictable. That's what the database says." The human fleet didn't slow down as it approached. Throck sent a hailing message offering to talk. The humans didn't respond. They just kept coming, their ships spreading out into a formation that Throck didn't recognize. "They're not slowing down," the sensor officer said. His voice had a hint of worry in it now. "They're going to enter weapons range in 2 minutes. Lock weapons on their lead ship," Throck ordered. "Fire a warning shot across their bow. Let them know we're serious." The Kravith ship fired. A beam of concentrated energy shot across space, passing within 100 meters of the lead human vessel. Any sensible species would have stopped, would have realized they were outmatched and turned back. The humans accelerated. "What are they doing?" Throck demanded. "Fire again. Hit their engines. Disable them," the Kravith fired. This time they didn't miss. The energy beam struck the lead human ship directly, hitting its engine section. The ship shuddered but didn't stop. It kept coming, trailing sparks and venting atmosphere but still moving forward. "That should have destroyed them," the weapons officer said. "No ship should survive a direct hit from our main cannon." "Then fire again," Throck ordered. They did. They hit the human ship 3 more times. Parts of it broke off. Entire sections went dark, but it kept coming. And now the other human ships were firing back. Human weapons were strange. They didn't use energy beams or particle cannons like most galactic species. They used missiles. Simple, primitive chemical rockets that carried explosive warheads. The Kravith had shields designed to stop energy weapons. The shields did nothing to stop the missiles. The first Kravith ship died in fire. The explosion was so bright that Throck had to shield his eyes. The second ship died moments later. Then the third. "Evasive maneuvers," Throck shouted. "Return fire! Kill them!" The battle became chaos. The human ships moved in ways that didn't make sense. They used the gravity of nearby asteroids to slingshot themselves at impossible speeds. They deliberately flew through radiation clouds that should have killed their crews. One human ship actually rammed a Kravith vessel, sacrificing itself to take out an enemy. The Kravith ships were bigger and better armed, but the humans fought like nothing Throck had ever seen. They didn't care about their own safety. They took hits that would have made any other species retreat, and they just kept fighting. Within an hour, the Kravith war fleet was destroyed. 37 ships gone. Only 3 ships escaped, and Throck's flagship was one of them. He sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. They had lost. 40 ships against 20, and they had lost. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," the communications officer said. "It's from the humans." "Put it on screen," Throck said. A human face appeared. It was a female with dark skin and short hair. She looked tired but determined. Behind her, Throck could see the interior of a human ship. The walls were scorched from fires. Several crew members were injured, being treated by others while still working at their stations. "I am Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet," the human said. "You attacked one of our colony ships. You killed 3,000 of our people. We're here to make sure that never happens again." "You won," Throck said. His voice was bitter. "What more do you want? Are you going to destroy my ship too?" "No," Admiral Chen said. "We're going to rescue your crew." Throck didn't understand. "What?" "Your ships are damaged. Your life support systems are failing. We're going to bring your people aboard our ships and give them medical attention." The Admiral leaned forward. "We're not like you. We don't kill people just because we can. But we attacked you, Throck said. We destroyed your colony ship. Yes, you did, Admiral Chen replied. And you're going to pay for that. But your crew members are just following orders. They don't deserve to die in the vacuum of space, so we're going to save them. The human ships moved in, sending rescue teams to the damaged Kravith vessels. Throck watched in confusion as humans in pressure suits brought his crew to safety. The same humans who had been trying to kill them minutes before were now saving their lives. The Galactic Council watched the battle through long-range sensors. Commander Velness saw everything. She saw how the humans fought. She saw how many hits they took and kept fighting. She saw the human ship that sacrificed itself, ramming into a Kravith vessel to save the rest of its fleet. And then she saw something that made her question everything she thought she knew about humans. She saw them rescuing the enemy. Why? Her second officer asked. Why are they saving the Kravith? Those same Kravith murdered their people. Velness didn't have an answer. She contacted Admiral Chen directly, something she probably shouldn't have done, but she needed to understand. Admiral, this is Commander Velness of the Zephrani. May I ask you a question? The tired human face looked at her from the screen. Commander, you're the one who sent us the recording. Yes, I'm sorry. If I had known... Don't be sorry, Admiral Chen interrupted. You did the right thing. We needed to know. What's your question? Why are you rescuing the Kravith? They destroyed your colony ship. They killed your people. Why show them mercy? Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she said, because that's what separates us from them. We fight when we have to. We kill when we must. But we don't let anger turn us into monsters. Those Kravith crew members didn't destroy our colony ship. Their captain did. Their government did. And we're going to make sure they answer for it. How? Velness asked. Watch and learn, Admiral Chen said. Over the next 3 months, humanity demonstrated what they meant by justice. They didn't attack Kravith civilian targets. They didn't bomb cities or destroy farms. Instead, they systematically dismantled every Kravith military installation they could find. For every human who died on the colony ship, one Kravith military base was destroyed. The humans documented everything. They recorded every attack, showed exactly what they were targeting and why. They released all the data publicly so the entire galaxy could see. They also showed what they found at those bases, evidence of other attacks on other species, stolen goods from 100 different worlds, slave pens holding beings from across the galaxy. The Kravith weren't just pirates. They were slavers and thieves, and they had been getting away with it for decades because the Galactic Council moved too slowly to stop them. The humans moved fast. They hit 3 or 4 bases every week. They freed the slaves and returned stolen property to its owners. And they kept count. 3,000 deaths meant 3,000 targets. The Kravith government tried to negotiate. The humans ignored them. They tried to threaten. The humans ignored them. They tried to appeal to the Galactic Council. The Council said they couldn't interfere in an internal matter. On the 87th day of the campaign, the Kravith government finally said the words that humanity had been waiting for. We surrender. Admiral Chen's response was simple. We're just getting started. 3 months into the human campaign against the Kravith, 7 more species decided that humanity was the real threat to galactic peace. They called themselves the Coalition for Galactic Order, though Commander Velness privately thought Coalition for Maintaining the Status Quo would be more accurate. The Coalition species were all predators in their own right. The Scarix, who controlled vast mining operations using enslaved species. The Venloth, who had been stealing technology from younger civilizations for centuries. The Harathi, who viewed all other species as inferior and treated them accordingly. And 4 others, each with their own reasons to fear what humanity represented. They sent a joint message to Earth, demanding that humans stop their attacks on the Kravith immediately. They threatened economic sanctions. They threatened to cut off trade routes. They threatened military action if humanity didn't comply. Earth's response was delivered by Secretary General Martinez himself. He stood before the cameras looking directly at the Coalition representatives and said one word. No. The Coalition had expected negotiations. They had expected humanity to back down when faced with 7 powerful species united against them. They didn't expect what happened next. The Coalition sent a small fleet to attack a human supply convoy near the edge of Kravith space. It was supposed to be a demonstration, a warning shot to show humanity that they were serious. The attack killed 50 humans, all of them civilian cargo pilots who were delivering food and medical supplies to the fleet. The coalition thought they had made their point. They had no idea what they had actually done. Earth didn't just respond to the coalition. Earth showed the galaxy what humanity looked like when it was truly angry. Ships launched from every human colony. From the Moon, from Mars, from the orbital stations around Jupiter and Saturn, from the asteroid belt, from everywhere humanity had established a presence, thousands of ships all moving with one purpose. The coalition members watched in growing horror as they realized the scale of their mistake. What they had thought was humanity's full military strength was just the expeditionary force. The real fleet had been back home protecting Earth and its colonies. How many ships do they have? The Scarix representative demanded at an emergency council meeting. The sensor data was clear. At least 5,000 warships, a council analyst reported. And that's just what we can detect. There may be more. That's impossible, the Venloth delegate said. They've only been in space for 200 years. How can they have so many ships? Commander Velnus had been studying human history since the colony ship massacre. She understood now. Because they don't have a military-industrial complex, she explained to the council. They have an everything-industrial complex. On Earth, civilian companies compete to build better weapons. Their entertainment industry makes war look exciting. Their children play games about military strategy. Their entire civilization is built around the idea that they might need to fight at any moment. Why? Someone asked. What kind of species lives like that? A species from a death world, Velnus replied. A species that evolved in an environment where everything was trying to kill them. They're not violent by nature. They're prepared by necessity. And we just reminded them why they need to be prepared. The human fleet arrived at Coalition space within a week, but they didn't attack. Instead, Admiral Chen broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. The Coalition killed 50 of our people. We could respond by destroying 50 of their ships or 50 of their bases or 50 of their cities, but we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to show you what we're really fighting for. The humans released everything they had found at the Kravith bases. Documents, videos, testimony from freed slaves, evidence of crimes that went back decades. They didn't just show what the Kravith had done. They showed what all the Coalition species had done. The slavery, the theft, the murder, all of it documented and broadcast to every species in the galaxy. Then humanity did something that surprised everyone. They called for a meeting with the Galactic Council, not to surrender or negotiate, but to propose new laws. The meeting was held on a neutral station. Commander Velnus was there, along with representatives from every council species. Admiral Chen represented humanity, along with Secretary General Martinez and a team of human diplomats. We call it the Death World Doctrine, Secretary General Martinez explained. He displayed a document that had been written in hundreds of languages. The basic principle is simple. Species from harsh worlds, what you call death worlds, have a right to defend themselves without interference, and any species that targets another species for genocide or enslavement will face immediate consequences. You can't enforce that, the Scarix representative objected. You're one species. We are thousands. That's true, Admiral Chen said, but here's the thing. We don't need to enforce it alone, because we're not the only death world species in the galaxy. She displayed a map showing dozens of worlds that were classified as harsh or deadly by council standards. Worlds with high gravity, extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres, or dangerous predators. On each of these worlds, intelligent species had evolved and survived despite the odds. These species have been kept down by the Council's protective classifications, Admiral Chen continued. You decided they were too fragile or too primitive to join the galactic community. But they're not fragile. They're survivors, just like us, and we're going to help them join the galaxy as equals. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some species supported the idea. Others were horrified. The coalition members were furious. This is blackmail, the Harathi delegate declared. You're threatening us to get what you want. No, Secretary General Martinez said calmly. We're offering you a choice. You can accept the new doctrine and start treating all species fairly, or you can continue as you have been and deal with the consequences. What consequences? The Scarix representative demanded. Admiral Chen smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. Us. The coalition tried to hold firm. They sent their fleets to intercept human ships. They tried to blockade human space. They tried everything they could think of to force humanity to back down. Nothing worked. Human ships went where they wanted. When coalition vessels tried to stop them, the humans simply outmaneuvered them or outfought them. Human technology, which the galaxy had dismissed as primitive, turned out to be incredibly effective. Their AI was more advanced than anything the Council had. Their weapons were simple but devastating. Their tactics were unpredictable and creative. Most importantly, humans didn't fight alone anymore. The species they had freed from Kravith bases joined them. The Deathworld species who had been waiting for someone to give them a chance joined them. Even some Council species, tired of the Coalition's bullying, started supporting human proposals. The Coalition began to fracture. The smaller members realized they were on the wrong side of history. One by one, they made peace with humanity. They agreed to the Deathworld doctrine and started releasing their slaves and returning stolen property. The larger Coalition members held out longer, but even they couldn't maintain their position. Their own populations were starting to question why they were fighting. Young Scarix protested their government's slave mines. Venloth scientists published papers supporting human technology proposals. Hurathi philosophers wrote essays about the value of treating all species with respect. 6 months after the Coalition formed, it collapsed. The Deathworld doctrine was adopted by the Galactic Council with only 3 votes against it. Those 3 species found themselves isolated, their trade restricted, their diplomatic relationships strained. Commander Velnus watched all of this happen and marveled at what humanity had accomplished. They had come to the galaxy seeking justice for 3,000 deaths. They had found a broken system that allowed powerful species to prey on weak ones. And instead of just fixing their own problem, they had fixed the entire system. How did they do it? Velnus's second officer asked. How did one species change everything? Velnus thought about it. Because they didn't see it as one problem. They saw it as connected problems. The Kravith murdered their people because the system allowed it. The Coalition supported the Kravith because the system protected them. The system was broken because no one wanted to fix it, so humanity fixed all of it. By threatening war? No, Velnus said. By being willing to fight for what's right. That's the difference. The rest of us talked about justice and peace, but we weren't willing to actually fight for it. Humans are. That's what makes them dangerous. And that's why they're going to change the galaxy. The human fleet surrounded the Kravith homeworld on the 300th day of the campaign. 3,000 military installations destroyed. 3,000 for 3,000. The math was complete. Captain Throck, who had survived the first battle with humanity and had been watching everything that followed, stood on the surface of his homeworld and looked up at the sky. He could see the human ships with his own eyes, dark shapes against the stars. So many ships. Enough to crack the planet open if they wanted to. What are they waiting for? His second-in-command asked. Why don't they attack? Throck didn't know. He had expected the humans to come with fire and fury, to take revenge for the colony ship by destroying Kravith cities. That's what any other species would have done. That's what the Kravith would have done, but the humans just waited. Their ships sat in orbit, silent and watching. It was almost worse than an attack. The uncertainty. The fear, then the broadcast came. Admiral Chen's face appeared on every screen on the planet, speaking through translation devices that turned her words into the Kravith language. People of the Kravith homeworld, she said, we are here because your government murdered 3,000 human civilians. We have destroyed 3,000 of your military installations in response. The military debt is paid, but there is still a matter of justice to settle. She paused, letting her words sink in. Thrick listened carefully, trying to understand what the human wanted. We want the individuals responsible for the attack on our colony ship, Admiral Chen continued. The captain who gave the order. The officers who carried it out. The government officials who authorized raiding in human space. Give us these people and we will leave your world in peace. Refuse and we will do what we must to get them. The broadcast ended. The Kravith government immediately held an emergency session. Throck was summoned to the capital, along with every other ship captain who had participated in raids. The government chamber was filled with angry, frightened people all talking at once. We can't give in to their demands, the High Commander said. If we surrender our people to human justice, we'll look weak. Other species will see us as defeated. We are defeated, someone else pointed out. They destroyed 3,000 bases. They beat the coalition. What else do they need to do before we admit it? We should fight, another voice called out. Rally our remaining ships. Call in our allies. Drive the humans away. Throck listened to all of this and felt sick. He had started this. His raid on the human colony ship had brought this war to their doorstep. And now his people were talking about continuing to fight, as if they hadn't already lost. He stood up. I was there, he said. Everyone turned to look at him. I was at the first battle with the humans. I saw what they're capable of. We can't beat them. Not in a fair fight. Not in an unfair fight? Not ever. So we just surrender, the High Commander demanded. Give them whatever they want? Yes, Throck said simply. Because the alternative is they take it anyway, and more of us die in the process. The government argued for 3 more days. 3 days while human ships waited patiently in orbit. 3 days while the people of the Kravith homeworld looked up at the sky and wondered if they would live to see tomorrow. On the 4th day, something unexpected happened. The Kravith people made the decision themselves. It started in the capital city. Crowds gathered in the streets demanding that their government surrender the war criminals. They didn't want to fight anymore. They didn't want to die for the sake of leaders who had started a war they couldn't win. The protests spread. Within hours, every major city on the planet had crowds in the streets. They surrounded government buildings. They blocked military bases. They demanded peace. And then they did something even more surprising. They found the people responsible for the colony ship attack and delivered them to the humans themselves. Captain Throck was one of them. He stood in a line with 19 other Kravith waiting to be taken into custody. He was afraid but also relieved. At least it would be over soon. At least his people would be safe. Human soldiers came to collect them. They were polite and professional, treating their prisoners with care. Throck was placed in a cell on a human ship, given food and water, and told he would face trial. The trial was held on a neutral station, broadcast to the entire galaxy. Throck stood before a panel of judges from a dozen different species. The humans presented their evidence. Video of the attack, testimony from Commander Velnus, data from the destroyed colony ship. Then they did something that surprised Throck. They gave him a lawyer, a Kravith lawyer chosen by his own people who would defend him in the trial. Why? Throck asked the lawyer during their first meeting. Why would the humans give me a fair trial? I killed their people. Because that's what justice means to them, the lawyer explained. Not revenge, not punishment for its own sake. Justice. They want to prove that you're guilty according to law, not just according to their anger. The trial lasted 2 weeks. The evidence was overwhelming. Throck had given the order to attack the colony ship. He had killed 3,000 humans. He was guilty and he knew it, but the lawyer still defended him. She argued that Throck was following orders from his government, that he had been taught his entire life that raiding was acceptable, even honorable, that he couldn't be held responsible for the culture he was born into. The judges considered all of this. Then they delivered their verdict, guilty of murder and piracy. The sentence was death. Throck accepted it. He had killed 3,000 people. He would pay with his life. It seemed fair, but then something else happened. The Kravith people petitioned for mercy, not for Throck specifically, but for all of the convicted war criminals. They argued that their entire society needed to change, and that change would be harder if they killed everyone who represented the old ways. The humans considered this petition. Admiral Chen met with the families of the colony ship victims. She asked them what they wanted. Some wanted death for the people who had killed their loved ones. Others wanted justice but weren't sure what that meant anymore. In the end, a compromise was reached. 5 of the Kravith war criminals, including the government officials who had authorized the raids, were executed. The others, including Throck, were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 20 years. They would spend that time working to repair the damage they had caused, helping to rebuild what they had destroyed. Throck spent his first year in prison on a human colony world, helping to build homes for refugees. He worked alongside humans and slowly began to understand them. They weren't monsters. They weren't even particularly violent by Kravith standards. They were just people who believed that actions had consequences. Commander Velnus watched all of this from her monitoring station and tried to understand what humanity had accomplished. They had come seeking revenge and ended up creating justice. They had brought war, and somehow made the galaxy more peaceful. She contacted Admiral Chen one last time, before the human fleet returned to Earth. "Admiral, may I ask you one more question?" The human looked tired but satisfied. "Of course, Commander. You could have destroyed the Kravith homeworld," Velnus said. "You had the firepower. You had the justification. Why did you stop? Why show mercy?" Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. "Because we're not conquerors, Commander. We never wanted to rule the galaxy or punish the Kravith people. We just wanted justice for our dead, and we wanted to make sure it never happened again. The Kravith people gave us both. They delivered the criminals themselves. They promised to reform their government and their society. That's enough. But what if they break that promise?" Velnus asked. "Then we'll come back," Admiral Chen said simply. "And next time we won't wait 300 days to act. That's the price of peace, Commander. The Kravith get to live free and independent. But they have to earn that freedom every day by being better than they were. That's fair, isn't it?" Velnus nodded. It was fair. More than fair. It was the kind of justice that the Galactic Council had talked about for centuries, but never actually implemented. 1 year after the massacre, a memorial was built in neutral space. 3,000 crystalline pillars, one for each victim of the colony ship attack. Every species in the galaxy contributed to its construction. Even the Kravith sent workers and materials. The dedication ceremony was attended by representatives from every major species. Humans stood beside Kravith. Former coalition members stood beside the Deathworld species they had once oppressed. Commander Velnus stood beside Admiral Chen, both of them looking at the memorial and thinking about how much had changed. "Thank you," Admiral Chen said quietly. "For what?" Velnus asked. "For sending us that transmission, for telling us the truth. If you hadn't, we never would have known what happened to our people. We never would have come here. None of this would have happened." Velnus thought about all the death and destruction that had followed her decision. She thought about the war, the trials, the upheaval in galactic society. She also thought about the freed slaves, the reformed governments, the new laws protecting vulnerable species. "I'm still not sure I did the right thing," Velnus admitted. Admiral Chen looked at her. "You told the truth to people who would listen. You asked for help from people who would actually help. That's always the right thing, even when it's hard."